so let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right. It's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think he's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome to Pro Football Today right here on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm stepping in for Kevin Walsh alongside Joe Lisi. NFL Week 4 is here. We have plenty to get to. We have a game underway in Dublin. The Steelers taking on the Vikings. The Steelers managed to strike first with a Kenny Gainwell touchdown. Joe, we have a huge week ahead of us. How you doing?
Oh, doing well. Football's on. Carson Wentz looking to shake off the ring rust. They did jump out to a 3-0 lead. Controversial fumble by Jordan Mason. It was a scoop and score. Got called back. And right now we're seeing Pittsburgh step up. Rushing attack looks okay. DK Metcalf with a big reception as well. We'll see if they can get into a rhythm. But I think the storyline of the day, Tom, is the 2 big games that we'll see at 4 o'clock, Kansas City and Baltimore. One of those teams will be 1-3. And then Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons, something's got to give in Big D a little bit later tonight.
Certainly a lot going on across the NFL. It's going to be business as usual, even though I am stepping in for Kevin Walsh. I will say I will have no wheel plays as he normally does. But we have a lot to get to. And, Joe, as you alluded to, it is a huge game at that 4:25 start with the Ravens and the Chiefs. Both teams sitting at 1-2. One of these teams, Super Bowl hopefuls, will be turning to 1-3. And Joe, this puts a lot of people's futures into question. I will say Lamar is playing at an MVP level right now. He looks absolutely fantastic. There is some big news for this game that the Chiefs are expected to get Xavier Worthy back. He has missed the last 2 games after getting hurt on the 3rd snap in week 1 when they were in Brazil. So certainly a boost to their offense. The Chiefs got right last week with a win over the Giants, and Giants have their own storylines, which we'll certainly get to. But initial thoughts from this game, because frankly, Lamar has been playing unbelievable, and their defense is the issue this week.
That is the question. You talk about Lamar Jackson completing 72% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. They really should be 2-1 heading into this matchup. Instead, they're 1-2. It's unfortunate what happened in that Week 1 performance against Buffalo, but the defense does have question marks, and I think that's where we look in this matchup. We know that Baltimore can put up points. What can the defense give you, especially in a road type of environment? That's going to be critical to pull this game out. I think on the other side, when we look at Kansas City, it looks like they're balanced, Tom, right? They're averaging basically 4.6 yards per carry. They're averaging well over, it looks like, 80 to 90 yards a game. They have 324 rushing yards on the year. But Pat Mahomes has accounted for 125 of those. And most of those came in the Week 1 performance against the L.A. Chargers. If you take that out of the equation, they're only averaging 66.3 rushing yards per game. What does that mean? Long third down situations without Worthy in there. They're into predictable situations, puts pressure on Mahomes and the offensive line, and that's going to be the storyline that plays out today. I still give the edge, because I believe in the Kansas City defense a little bit better, to Kansas City. But again, if Baltimore pushes tempo, could be a long day for Pat Mahomes in this matchup.
It really can be, and the lack of consistent run game that the Chiefs have shown between Pacheco and Hunt is very, very concerning, and your quarterback can't be your leading rusher when it's all said and done. It's nice for him to contribute at times, but if you can't have a consistent runner or two consistent runners as they do between Pacheco and Hunt to get you 40, 50 yards apiece, well, then the Chiefs are going to be into obvious passing game scripts, obvious passing situations. And even though the Baltimore defense has significantly struggled, one of the worst scoring defenses allowed this season, they're going to know what's coming. So they don't have to sell out for the run. They don't have to be worried about that. And they are dealing with their own injuries on defense. But when it comes to the outlook for both of these teams overall, obviously the prices have adjusted slightly, at least when it comes to the Chiefs and their Super Bowl odds right now, sitting at 13-1, which is probably one of the longest odds we have seen them in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it might be. But this really brings into question where these teams will sit to make the playoffs. And I think that's the most interesting part because, frankly, the Chiefs, they're starting to fall a step behind, not in terms of the division, but the conference overall is certainly looking very strong.
It is, and think about some of the other teams in the AFC as a whole. Jacksonville's playing much better. Indianapolis is playing much better. We don't know what we're going to get out of C.J. Stroud in Houston right now. And then, obviously, in the AFC West, you have the Chargers 3-0. Denver's still battle-tested. They lost some, critical games by 1 or 2 points. But again, they're still going to be there. So I think when you look at this aging team right now and you say big picture, before the season started, I would have said, you know what, until you knock off Pat Mahomes, until you knock off Kansas City, I can't buy into the Bills or Ravens where they were priced ahead of the Chiefs. But now, after 3 weeks in the season, and you see this body of work, and you still see the offensive concerns that lagged last year, that's a cause of concern. Now, the defense can carry them, but what are you going to get out of this passing attack today? Because, again, if Lamar starts hot, could really put the Chiefs at a disadvantage today.
Yeah, so just to note, the Ravens right now are minus 1,300 to make the playoffs. The Chiefs are sitting at minus 220. The Ravens, despite their bad spot, I still like them in the AFC North. We have to remember the Joe Burrow injury makes that path just a bit easier. We could say going into the season, Ravens, Bengals, they probably split those games. They go 1-1. Now, the Ravens are looking to spot that they can pick up 2 wins. I'll say that they get both wins against the Browns. They already have the one. I would like to say they can split against the Steelers. And now they're still in a good spot to make the playoffs overall in the AFC. But if the Jags are playing better and the Colts are playing better, now 2 teams coming out of the AFC South, I don't think is something many people would expect. But that's really where we could be. So the Ravens, I will say, will be in a good spot despite a loss today, which I don't mind taking the points with the Chiefs, but my prevailing sentiment coming into this game was that the Ravens win, but they don't cover. You give me a 24-23 final, 28-27. Those are key, outcomes for NFL games. They win, but they don't cover. Any other thoughts on this game, which we will dive into plenty more?
Well, I just think the Eagles laid points on the road, right, to Kansas City. If I would have told you at the start of the year the Chiefs would have been underdogs to the Eagles and Ravens in back-to-back weeks, basically, would you have bought in to think that home dominance is like basically?
I would say Mahomes would be hurt at that point.
Right. So, and here's the thing: just because Worthy's back in that lineup, we're talking about a shoulder injury, and he's going to be wearing some sort of sleeve is he going to be limited? Are they going to keep him on basically a pinch count or load management because of his size? That's always a cause of concern. Again, props, that's going to affect Worthy props, and that's going to affect the whole mindset of this offense. With Andy Reid, they just do not look like a confident group, even though they got that victory over the New York Giants. You can make the argument Mahomes doesn't steal the ball from Bobby Okereke. That changes the whole outcome potentially of that victory in East Rutherford last week.
It really does. And speaking to the Worthy props in terms of his receiving yards, 46.5, I will say, if he is healthy and he's actually ready to go, this is a very light number for him. And the way they utilize him in the offense, especially dating back to last year. Now, if they have him out there and he's on some type of snap count, it's a decoy role, well, then we want to be looking to the other players. Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton have had big roles for the Chiefs in the past 2 weeks. So it is a bit of a wait and see. And sometimes in that situation, you could say, I'm simply just going to stay away because I don't know. And if Worthy, and look, we may get a pregame note, 425 start. Right. We may get that pregame note that Schefter tweets out. We have something from Rappaport saying they're going to utilize Worthy in spots.
Right.
They're not going to give him any running plays. They're going to look to get him some easy completions, no balls across the middle, no hospital balls from Mahomes. So that would be an interesting point when it comes to his props. However, I will say the Hollywood Brown at 38.5 and the Juju at 16.5 are still pretty light if Worthy isn't healthy.
Yeah, you have to get those guys over their number. I mean, that's the biggest thing for Kansas City right now. I understand that you want to rely on your defense, but you have to push a little bit of tempo as well to basically rest the defense. They can't be out there if you're getting 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You're just going to wear down as this game progresses. So for me, again, they're going to have offensive balance. I expect Lamar and that offense that's humming right now. I mean, they haven't missed a beat. They're still putting up 35 points per game. Like they put up 40 against Buffalo. That performance on Monday night against a very good Detroit team, we're still able to move the football. The Chiefs are going to have to score at least 20 points to potentially pull it out.
We're coming up against a break right now. We have the game in Dublin going on between the Vikings and the Steelers. We will update you on that when we come back. We will go through the entire slate, other big notes and stories around the league. We have a huge Sunday night football game with Micah Parsons returning to Dallas. We have the Eagles taking on the Buccaneers. We have Jackson Dart making his first NFL start. Stay tuned, all right here on Pro Football Today.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Well, Shadur, which quarterbacks are you talking about? Because there is some bad quarterback play out there, but the dude who can't beat Dylan Gabriel out for a job and can't beat Joe Flacco out for a job certainly can't lay claim to being better than any other quarterback in the league.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
That's a lot for a closer. 10. That's you're not a closer anymore if you blow 10 games. I mean, my goodness. That's
he's mentally broken too. Like it's to the point where like Dodger fans aren't even mad at him; they're more mad at the Dodgers for putting him out there.
Putting him in.
Right? It's more so.
Right.
Yeah, it's like guys, like he's done.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball has decided it is time to put balls and strikes not just in the hands of the umpires, but also the robot umpires, as they say. The ABS system is now officially in place starting next season. Now, keep in mind, they're not just throwing this out there. They have used this at the Arizona Fall League, and they've also used it at different levels of the minor leagues as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
We are back right here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm alongside Joe Lisi. And right after we went to the commercial break, we had a score in the Steelers-Vikings game over in Dublin. A little slant to DK Metcalf, which he took for 80 yards to the house. He is through all of his numbers. I believe his prop was sitting at 55 or 56.5 for receiving yards. He's up to 122-1, and the Steelers jump out to a 14-3 lead. They are now sitting at 7.5-point favorites. Joe, any thoughts on this game, or 6.5-point favorites, I should say, right now?
Well, Aaron Rodgers looks like he's in a rhythm now, right? You would give the edge early on to Minnesota in that defense by Brian Flores. Let's not forget, he faced off last year with the New York Jets, and that defense got the best of him with 3 interceptions. A different type of Aaron Rodgers right now. The rushing attack seems to be consistent. And in the defense now, in back-to-back weeks, they sacked Drake May, I believe, a few times?
Yeah.
Last week, I think it was 5 times in that matchup. They got to Carson Wentz on the last drive. So would I be inclined to take the 7.5 right now? No. I just don't know how Wentz is going to perform. But I tell you what, the total to me is interesting. And I'm on Justin Jefferson. I'm on Hawkinson because if they are playing from behind, that means less Jordan Mason and more of the passing attack. So we'll see how it plays out. But right now, inside edge has to be the Steelers.
It is. And Mason is 6 of 19 right now, so just over 3 yards per carry. Jordan Addison, this is his first game back after his 3-game suspension. So he is back in the mix. Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson, to your point, those 3 players should be playing a big role. Obviously, with Carson Wentz under center for the Vikings, they should be in a full passing game script as of now. But we need to continue to break down this Ravens-Chiefs game as it has massive implications, not just for the AFC title odds, the AFC playoff picture, but really Super Bowl favorites. And I know after this game, I can already see the stats. Tomorrow morning, we're going to see them all over Twitter say, teams that start off 1-3, only 5% of them, whatever the number is, make the playoffs. And that's where one of these teams will be looking down. They'll be looking at a 1-3 record, but really everything starts with the quarterbacks. And we've alluded to that. Lamar has played at an MVP level thus far, as you said, completing 72% of his passes. The crazy thing is that Mahomes has more rushing yards than him, but Lamar has looked fantastic. But this is a real test on defense for him. This is not to say that they weren't tested against the Browns the other week, but this is a different type of defense he has to face.
It is, and again, you watch that game, Lamar against Detroit. I will say he did spread the football around to multiple receivers. We saw Rashad Bateman get involved, Mark Andrews as well, and that's what they're going to have to utilize on the road here against the Kansas City defense. Spagnuolo and that defense take away always your best option, so I wouldn't be inclined to look at Zay Flowers in this matchup. Again, they're probably going to try and limit Derrick Henry. Is there a prop with Derrick Henry potentially fumbling again? First 3 games of the regular season. If I would have told you that, you would have probably said, no way. I'll give you 30-1 on Derrick Henry in the first 3 games of the regular season. But that's the way this game is going to play out offensively, is that they're going to have to utilize those secondary and tertiary wide receivers to open up Kansas City's defense and secondary. I still like Bateman. Again, he came on last week. I still think he's a huge part of that offense. He can work over the middle. He had some chunk plays. I like that. And we saw Justice Hill coming out of the backfield. He's utilized on 3rd downs in the receiving game. I think they're going to have to utilize those running backs as well.
The one note I will make when it comes to Mahomes and the dynamic of the offense overall is we alluded to the Chiefs' rushing offense being terrible. However, right now the Ravens sit at 31st in the league in terms of EPA per rush allowed. They're terrible, and we saw that exposed on Monday night with mostly Montgomery, but Montgomery and Gibbs for Detroit getting things done on offense. We saw it in Week 1 with the Bills. They got things moving. So I'm inclined to trust Mahomes maybe in a passing attempt market just because they're not moving the ball on the ground. The Chiefs have to do something on offense, and it is a way to go, a roundabout way to say, I don't know who the Chiefs are going to go to. I don't want to mess with the worthy props. Mahomes is going to throw the ball. I just don't know who it's going to go to, but let's just trust Mahomes. If there's any type of game for the Chiefs to get the ball moving on the ground with Pacheco and Hunt, it is against the team that is 31st in the league in EPA per rush. So if they can't get it done now, I don't know when we could possibly trust the rushing game from the Chiefs.
It's a great point, and I think, that's the mindset for Kansas City, right? Do they test that front 7 early, especially knowing that, hey, our offense isn't as explosive as we've been in years past. We're a little bit limited in the wide receiver position. Do we want to trend to the under, right? And that's the critical matchup. 48.5 really leads me to believe that Baltimore is going to dictate the tempo because they're going to push it and say, game on and try and match us score for score. And we have better playmakers than you, even though Pat Mahomes is sitting back there. So I think it is a good look because if you are going to test Pacheco and Hunt, we'll know early.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
I mean, they're not going to run the football in the 3rd quarter unless this game is like 10-3, which by then, Baltimore could have 28 points heading into halftime. So, again, I think Baltimore's coming to play this game where, hey, up-tempo, we're looking to score 30, and we can outscore anybody. And this is a team that we have beaten down. And on the flip side, I think Andy Reid really needs maybe a dial-back approach and say, you know what, let's rely on the interior line, run the football. If we have success, then we'll typically try and grind it out like we always do at home.
Yeah, I don't think the Chiefs are in a spot where they want to try and win this game 31-28. I think if it's a higher scoring game, it will tend towards the Ravens winning when it's all said and done. It should be noted that Isaiah Likely, the backup tight end for the Ravens, is expected to make his season debut. We will obviously get those final confirmations once actives and inactives come out a little bit later. But looking at other elements of this game, there's a lot to consider when it comes to the Baltimore receiving options. You are still high on Bateman. I'm inclined to say that Zay Flowers should be in for a bounce-back game, but it's not something that I'm willing to bank on against the Spagnuolo defense. Outside of Bateman, are there any other pass catchers from the Ravens you like?
Well, I would go to, again, the tight end. Andrew stepped up, right? He's the security blanket, got the touchdown in garbage time against Detroit. He's always in red zone opportunities, the guy that wants to make some plays for Lamar Jackson. And again, I still look, Derrick Henry with 4.5 receiving yards last week, gets through that number. They utilized Justice Hill, but I would take a shot on Henry, 10, 15 yards in the receiving game, and even screen game.
Yeah.
Because, again, you get that defense running sideline to sideline with the big man and get him out in space. That could be a long day for that Kansas City defense. So, again, I like Andrews, I like Bateman, but I'm also buying into both Justice Hill and Derrick Henry in the receiving game today.
I do like Henry, and a part of me wants to say that if they're not willing to trust him in this type of game despite the fumbles, when can you trust him?
Right.
Right? And it's just, and a part of me also wants to hope that he has the mindset coming into it saying, give me the ball, I'll make amends for what I've done.
Right, absolutely.
Give me the ball, get the ball in my hands, let me touch it 20 times, and I'll put up over 100 combined yards, and they'll get through all of the numbers, really, because 4.5 receiving, he should be able to do that on one single catch. That's what we'd like to see. We're coming up against a break right now. Plenty more for NFL Week 4 right here on Sports Grid. Stay tuned. Pro Football Today. We'll be back.
So let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins' head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on Sports Grid.
We're back right here on Pro Football Today. We have a game going on over in Dublin. Vikings taking on the Steelers. Steelers are winning 14-3. We did just see the Vikings convert a 4th-and-1 opportunity. Let's wrap things up when it comes to the Ravens and the Chiefs. We have plenty of other games, plenty of other storylines to discuss. A little outlook on the rest of the season for both of these teams, the schedule for the Ravens and their upcoming games, and where this really puts them for the rest of the season. Their win total 11.5. They are still favorites, or at least were coming into the season, to win the AFC North And, Joe, I think we can kind of put a bow on all of this. I think we both believe in the Ravens' offense. The defense is the issue as of now.
It is, and I'll lean to the under 48.5. I'll take a shot early on, and then, just as this game goes on. I do lean to the Chiefs, but I agree with you. Even if Baltimore does lose this game, big picture, I still like their chances to make the playoffs better than the Chiefs right now. Even though the Chiefs might be 2-2 overall, it's their offensive identity. Unless they break out today with a 45-point performance, I'd be shocked. But that would get me to buy back in on the Chiefs. Right now, I still think the concern, to your point, is Baltimore's defense. Can they shut down the run effectively? We'll see that early on. But if they don't pick up the victory, big picture, when you look at the teams in the AFC North, I still believe they're best offense in that division without Joe Burrow, and seeing what the Browns have, and still question marks surrounding the Steelers. Big picture, you got to go with Lamar to make the playoffs.
I would wholeheartedly agree. The outlook for both teams, I would say, is still strong. I would say it's stronger for the Ravens, even in a losing effort. The Chiefs' outlook, obviously, their odds to win the AFC West have changed dramatically, not only because of their 1-2 record, which could be 2-2, could be 1-3, but also the Chargers' hot start. And it's not just a 3-0 start for the Chargers. It is a 3-0 all wins against division opponents. So having that in your back pocket to start the season, the fact that they scheduled 3 straight division opponents to start the season is just completely unacceptable. But the Chiefs, looking at a wild card, and that's not something we've been able to say for them, and even not just a wild card, not a top or 2 or 3 seed for them.
No.
It's the first time in years.
No, and we did see them go in a couple of years ago against Lamar, number 1 seed, and they pulled it out. But again, they were much more healthier on the offensive side. Their defense led them that year, and they still had an above-average Pat Mahomes. I think for Pat Mahomes in this offense right now, run the football. If they could show that over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, and they have an offensive identity, then I'd say yes, they can challenge the Chargers. Chargers right now, best team in the division, hands down. And that's not to take away, obviously, from Denver, but you lose ball games and your quarterback isn't playing as consistent as Justin Herbert. You just can't do it. But they have an identity, the Chargers do, and I think they're right now the team to beat. We'll see if they can knock off the Giants as a 6.5-point road favorite, but all signs paint to Jim Harbaugh and that team being one of the contenders in the AFC.
When it comes to the Super Bowl odds, the Chiefs right now are sitting at 13-1. If they lose this game, where do you think that number would go to? And is there a number that you'd be willing to buy into?
Well, I mean, 13-1 is still double digits for Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid is great value. But if they lose this game and they fall to 1-3 overall, and how they have looked, depending upon margin of defeat in this matchup, if they all of a sudden give up 40 to Baltimore, then all of a sudden you have concerns about the defense. And where could we look at, Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid now? They might fall to 19-1, 20-1. And I think in that area, it would be worth it just knowing that, hey, when are you going to get Pat Mahomes at 20-1? But they do have concerns right now.
Yeah. Super Bowl odds obviously are changing week to week. Injuries happen. You have teams that are favorites, like, not I'm saying the favorites, but the Bengals had great odds coming in. You'd be buying into them, thinking that they could overcome things, and obviously an injury changes all of that. The Super Bowl odds, as you see here, I got to say, the NFC, some of those teams a little bit further down. I don't mind the Rams. I don't mind the 49ers. We'll get to those games a little bit later, but those are the teams I would have my eye on. I think if you have a Chargers ticket preseason, it's great to have, but I wouldn't be buying into them after the number has already moved.
No, at 3-0, you're not getting the best number, obviously. Again, they should be 4-0 based off the performance today against New York. But I will say, you look at that list, and I've said it time and time again, Tampa Bay is always intriguing to me. They're undefeated. They play the Eagles today. They're never given any love in the Super Bowl market. Why? I don't know. But Baker and that team, all they do is win the division and win playoff games at times. And again, if we're looking for a team for progression, that defense has gotten much better over the past couple of seasons. I would look to a team like Tampa Bay if you're looking for a dark horse outside the contender.
Right. I certainly don't mind Tampa Bay. Great defense. Baker still has his ups and downs. The offense is dealing with a ton of injuries. The offensive line is dealing with a ton of injuries, and they have a big test today against the Eagles. We will get to that game in just a little bit. We're coming up against a break right now. We will come back. We will recap what's going on in this doubling game between the Steelers and the Vikings. We'll get to the rest of the storylines around the league, and then we will, of course, eventually hit on every single game on the slate, get you everything you need to know. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid. Pro Football Today will be back.
So let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins' head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
We are back right here on SportsGrid Pro Football Today. Myself, Tom Vecchio, alongside Joe Lisi. We have a game in progress, start at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Over in Dublin, Ireland, the Pittsburgh Steelers hosting, quote-unquote hosting, the Minnesota Vikings. They were up 14-3 right now. We've got about 3.5 minutes left in the second quarter, approaching halftime. The Steelers have the ball. They've scored one in the air via DK Metcalf, an 80-yard TD reception, and then a quick little 1 or 2 yard rushing touchdown from Kenny Gainwell. Gainwell was actually the first touchdown of the game. We know that Jalen Warren was ruled out prior to the game. A couple things popped up, and Gainwell got the start. Anything you're looking to bet in-game? Because I have to say, this Carson Wentz number at 258 live seems like a tall task, the fact that he only has 93, and they don't even have the ball, and it's not even halftime.
Yeah, is it circa 2016? Because Kevin Walsh loves Carson Wentz, still thinks he's got fuel in the tank. I don't know if he's watching or not, but, he's going to have to step up to potentially score points in this matchup. I did jump on T.J. Hawkinson. Right now, no receptions, no yards, 27.5, minus 118 to the over. And you got to go with the hot hand. I would look at Addison, but I still think his number right now, 51.5, he's got 27. Wentz seems to be going to Justin Jefferson just a little bit more. I took a shot on him, I think 101.5. So I put Hawkinson and Jefferson in a little bit of a parlay pace, 218. If they're going to be down, whether it's 17-3 or potentially 21-3, forget Jordan Mason and the rushing attack. It's got to be the passing game.
It really does have to be that. Was it 2:34 left right now? The Steelers are approaching the red zone, so in a spot to expand this to not just a 2-score lead, but really push it out to 3, which would be a huge boost for them. We do have to remind ourselves that the Vikings actually will be playing a second straight international game next week when they are in London, as we have a crazy play over here by Aaron Rodgers, who scrambles for a first down, lost the ball, Steelers recovered. They're now inside the red zone, and they have the ball, still 14-3. But I would certainly be looking at this Carson Wentz number. Seems a bit too high. It dropped down a little bit to 252. He's at 93, and I would like to see what it is at halftime. If they do get the ball with just a handful of seconds left, they could break off a chunk play, and that would change things dramatically. But I am not buying into Carson Wentz putting up a ton of yards. He can certainly get the yards to Justin Jefferson, to Addison, and to Hawkinson, but for him to pass for 275, essentially, I'm not buying into that.
No, and you saw the offensive line break down on critical second and third down on last drive. That's if they're one-dimensional, that benefits the front seven of Pittsburgh in this ballgame. Right. And again, as this game progresses, depending upon if Minnesota can contain this offense right now, that's the biggest question. Defense has been getting shredded by DK Metcalf and even Aaron Rodgers in the passing attack. If they don't have answers, what does that lead for Minnesota offensively? And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the offensive line. And Wentz is not mobile like he used to be. That's multiple sacks and potentially, you don't know if they go to a third stringer in this type of situation.
Also true. We did have a game on Thursday night, and we can certainly recap that. What started off to look like a really slow, sloppy Thursday night game actually turned out to be a pretty good one, with the Seahawks coming away with a late score, 23-20 final for them. Darnold looked good. Jackson Smith and Jigba was super slow in the first half, but comes out firing in the second. The same thing can be said about Marvin Harrison, who was very slow in that game. He had the drops, a drop that led to a Kyler interception. But on the season, Marvin Harrison has looked good. I'm not going to say he's looked great. I still think he should be that second option in the offense behind Trey McBride. We know their offense is going to be changing with James Conner getting hurt last week when they were playing the 49ers. And now Trey Benson is stepping into that big role for their backfield. But Marvin Harrison needs to be a more consistent option. And frankly, there were times in the first half on Thursday night where I don't want to say he looked disinterested, but not fully engaged.
Yeah, not at all. And again, he had the big touchdown catch. He's great at reaching and catching the football at its highest point, and he stepped up in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, we've seen this out of Arizona. They start slow typically. Yeah. Outside the game, I want to say even week one against New Orleans, they fell behind. They did have a 10-7 lead, but you never see them jump out 28-0, 21-0. They have the potential with those weapons, even with Trey Benson in the rushing attack. And again, it seems like they wait until they're in a deficit to kick it into gear. Now, I will say they could have pulled that game out if it wasn't for Ryland with the squib kick.
Yeah.
What is he doing there? But I still believe in Marvin Harrison. Now, I don't think, and Tom, you can, give me your take. I never thought he was Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas coming out of LSU.
Yeah.
I still thought he was a little bit stiff. He was a great wide receiver, but I just didn't think he was as good as Neighbors coming out. And I think Neighbors has showcased he's a better route runner up until this point in his career. That doesn't mean he can't get it on. He's still learning. But, sometimes it takes a couple of years before he comes in to that pure number one wide receiver right now.
To me, it seems with Marvin Harrison at times is that when he's good, he's really good, but when he's bad, the lows are really low. And you would like to see that gap closed, where he brings the floor up, where it's not as bad, the drops aren't as much of an issue, but you don't need him to be a superstar and make crazy one-handed catches in the back of the end zone. When you bring that closer together, that's when Trey McBride excels, because you have now two because after that. Seeing Michael Wilson
and Dortch
and Greg Dortch, those are receivers defenses don't have to game plan against.
Right.
So when you have two consistent options and then you get Trey Benson coming out of the backfield, that is a well-rounded offense. The Steelers are approaching the red zone. We can touch on that. But on the other side of Arizona are the Seattle Seahawks, who come away with another win. And now we're coming up to a little bit of extra rest and now are looking at a great spot in the NFC West. Any thoughts on their team overall? Because we got a dynamic in the backfield, which hurt things with Ken Walker when he got the flag, and then we saw Zach Charbonnet step in there, and Jackson Smith and Jigba was super slow, and we're getting nothing out of Cooper Kupp. We're getting nothing out of their tight ends. Any thoughts on the Steelers and their excuse me, not Steelers. The Steelers are playing right now. The Seahawks and what their season outlook looks like.
Yeah, I've been very impressed, not so much from an offensive perspective, but from their defense. I think their defense is starting to come into form where they're going to be potentially one of the best in the league. And I didn't buy into that maybe at the start of the year. Sam Darnold, when you just look at his touchdown passes compared to what he had with Minnesota, he was in the area, I believe, of 23 or 20 in that respect, without DK Metcalf, I struggled to buy into that they're not going to be able to stretch teams vertically, but JSN has stepped up. And, that offensive line is really wearing down opposing front sevens. And when you have Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker pounding the rock, they are a very difficult team to beat. I still think Arizona can steal the division, but right now, Seattle's been the most impressive, I think, out of the West right now.
They have the concern I would have with Seattle is the bottom falls out, where there's not enough offense outside of JSN, and if they have game scenarios where they can't get the running game going, that's where the passing game, I think, will suffer. However, their defense will be in a spot to carry them. When it comes to the 49ers and the Rams in that division, I always want to be a believer in the 49ers from a skill perspective. The numbers are never going to be friendly to bet them at plus 110 or whatever they are to win the division. But as a team that theoretically should be getting healthier, they will be getting George Kittle back, Brandon Ayuk, Jennings. We know that Bosa is done for the season, but if these pieces are coming back, Purdy is expected to start this week. I want to buy into a team that will be getting healthier as the season goes on, which not a lot of teams can say.
No, you can't. And again, as long as they have those playmakers in the offense, they are lethal. Now, again, they're 3-0. They grind out a victory against Arizona. Arizona played very well, just gave it up in the fourth quarter. And credit, that team right now. Mac Jones has stepped in. They have a complimentary backup. But again, their defense looks like it was when they challenged the Philadelphia Eagles, for an NFC championship. So if they get that type of effort over the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks heading into, Brock Purdy coming back, then all of a sudden they are a contender again.
I will say with Bosa being out for the year, it is going to be interesting to see who steps up and fills some of that defensive pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Their defense is going to be factually weaker with Bosa not there anymore. And that can lead them to play in higher scoring games just because there's the lack of pressure is just a little bit lower on the 49ers side of things. So to see who steps up in his absence will be a big part. I think it can only be a boost for CMC, Purdy, and especially Ricky Pearsall in that offense if they all stay healthy. We're coming up against a break right now. Plenty more to get to. NFL Week 4 is already underway. We have more on Pro Football Today.
So let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins' head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
We are back right here on Pro Football Today. Week 4 of the NFL is here. We have action going on already. The Steelers just attempted a field goal, but that was blocked by the Vikings. Vikings have the ball with 1:38 left. They are starting off at their own 8-yard line. We will get to that game as it reaches halftime. We will recap all of that. But let's move on to the other big game of Week 4, which would be the Dallas Cowboys at home hosting the Green Bay Packers. It is a 6.5-point spread in favor of the road Packers. We have a 46.5 over-under, and it is the return of Micah Parsons to Dallas. The summer saga came to a conclusion after the final preseason game just about a week before Week 1 kicked off. He was traded from the Cowboys to the Packers. Odds changed. We know what went down. The Packers giving up a couple of picks along with Kenny Clark. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys insistent that they made the right move. Joe, so much changed, and this is all to note that the Packers are coming off a brutal loss to the Browns last week. Initial thoughts for this?
Well, you talk about it was a couple of years ago where Dallas was a 6.5-point home favorite over Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers in a playoff game and got kicked in the teeth by Matt LaFleur and the Pack, right? Now, Micah Parsons was not on that team. He led them to a 2-0 overall record to start the year. Everybody bought in. It's Super Bowl or bust for Matt LaFleur. The saving grace, Micah Parsons, is on Lambeau Field. I'll just say this. Good for Jerry Jones. He made the right decision. I buy into what Jerry said. He gave him an offer that he couldn't refuse. He turned it down. He reached out to the all-time greats like Mike Irvin and said, Mike, it's about the team. Micah didn't want to buy in, so they shipped him to Green Bay, and this is one of my better picks to the day. Jerry doesn't forget. He might not say it. Bags of cash in the Dallas locker room today for anybody that steps up offensively, defensively. I think the Dallas Cowboys win this game outright.
Ooh, spicy take here that Cowboys will exact some type of revenge on Sunday Night Football, but that's not the only news surrounding Dallas. That last week they lost CeeDee Lamb due to a high ankle sprain. They lined him up in the backfield, the Cowboys did, against the Bears. And listen, when it's all said and done, you know, losing CeeDee Lamb for 3 to 4 weeks is terrible for their offense. It hurts their overall playmaking potential. But the fact that they got shut out in the second half at Chicago against that type of defense is unacceptable. Now, the running back room coming into the season was pretty average to begin with. Javonte Williams is off to a good start this season. Miles Sanders, we know that they traded for George Pickens, but they're going to need players to step up and fill the offensive void that CeeDee Lamb leaves on offense. So it comes down to Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Turpin, Tolbert, and then the running back room. There's a lot going on with Dallas this week.
And I think they can get the football to those secondary wide receivers. They're still averaging 268 passing yards per game, rushing for about 125 on the ground. You know, when you look at this matchup going up against Jordan Love, and Jordan Love has stepped up over the first 3 weeks. Got contained in the second half by Cleveland last week, but the first 2 games of the regular season, we saw the Green Bay Packers become more balanced. I thought last year they relied solely on Josh Jacobs down the stretch. Definitely in the loss against Philadelphia in the NFC divisional game, they were one-dimensional. Jordan Love was under complete duress throughout that game, and they changed it up through the first couple of weeks of the regular season. You saw Cleveland, a better defense, sort of expose them in that game, I thought. And then when you look at this game right now, the concern so much for Green Bay isn't Josh Jacobs. Can they attack that secondary that Caleb Williams has attacked? That Russell Wilson is attacked. 450, right? Caleb with a breakout performance. Dallas enters this game, Tom, allowing 297 passing yards per game. If they can't attack it early, Dallas is going to be within margin, and we'll see how it plays out. But I don't have a concern so much, as long as Dak is healthy, of him spreading the football around to multiple receivers.
Yeah, we could be in for plenty of points tonight. We should note that the Packers are still without Jaden Reed. We know he's done. Christian Watson still has yet to play this season. So there's a lot of moving parts in their offense. And frankly, this could be a night for both tight ends, Tucker Kraft on one side, Jake Ferguson on the other side, to really step up. The Vikings, not to change course quickly, but the Vikings are driving down the field and have reached the red zone with about, under 30 seconds left to play. They did just call a timeout. But the Parsons news impacts the defensive player of the year odds, and he is still the favorite for that. We see the usual suspects up top between him, Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be there. I know a lot of people are high on Nick Bonito this year after he got his extension, but any thoughts on this? Because, a part of me is interested in Fred Warner after the Bosa news, knowing that he is the heart and soul of that 49ers defense. If there's going to be a player that steps up and makes play, impacting games for the 49ers, he will be that difference maker, and his odds will change dramatically.
It will, and you look at, Benito's on that list. I still think he's a dynamic playmaker if Denver can have some sort of consistency. When you look at right now Parsons, he's the hot name. He comes immediately and makes a difference in the first 2 games of the regular season, and all of a sudden he jumps Myles Garrett. But again, if Myles Garrett has that type of season like we believe, and let's just say Cleveland overexceeds expectations, will they give it to Micah over Myles Garrett, especially if maybe Green Bay comes back to the pack? I will say I was impressed, and we watched that game play out on Monday Night Primetime. Aiden Hutchinson has been, a bounce-back type of player. Now, I get it, he's coming off an injury, but the way he stepped up in that performance against Baltimore, he plays like that the rest of the way, and Detroit gets back to a 12 or a 13-win season. That offense is humming. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Hutchinson.
Yeah, I would like to say that I hope team record doesn't play into this too much, where I think it's fair to say that the Browns won't have as many wins compared to the Lions or compared to the Packers when it's all said and done. But if you're buying in on Myles Garrett, you want the on-field performance to be the thing that pushes him forward. You don't want to say that the Packers, just because they win the division and have 12 or 13 wins, is the reason that Micah Parsons were to win. So a market that's going to change, a huge game tonight, which we'll get into much more from a player prop and overall perspective. The Vikings just went, they failed to convert on 3rd down. They're about to kick a field goal. So Vikings looking to turn this into a 14-6 game for them. 15 seconds left, and we have a bit of a penalty here for the Steelers jumping off sides, but a ton more to get to. The Sunday night game between the Packers and the Cowboys, we'll break that down from a player prop perspective. Who's going to step up on the offenses on both sides? What type of scoring we're going to be seeing, and all of that. We will then get to every other game on the slate. We will give you our thoughts, some of our best bets, some of the player props we like for this week. We will also have some guests on the show to break down some injury notes and other news around the NFL. So much going on right here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Joe Lisi and myself, Tom Vecchio. We will be back after this. Again, no Kevin Walsh. That means no wheel plays this week. We're giving you the best right here on SportsGrid. Stay tuned.
So let's play a little game of buy or sell. It would appear from most of the reports, George, that Mike McDaniel is going to keep his job as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is a long season, though, and they're already 0-3. Buy or sell, McDaniel will be the Dolphins head coach at the end of the season.
He's going to get fired. All right, it's either now, later in the season, at the end of the season. He's not making it to next year. So the only question is, do they let him go towards the end of the season here? New York, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland, Atlanta, Baltimore, bye. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington going into that bye. And that Washington game, by the way, is in Europe somewhere. So I don't think he survives that. I don't think he's going to survive the bye week. I think it's going to go 1-3 of those games, maybe even lose all 4 of those games. No. And I think they will trade some players away, so they're going to be a worse team than they are now here. No, I'm going to sell this. He does not make it to the end of the season. I think they're going to fire him after week 11, if I had to guess. I think it's the perfect spot because not only is there a bye week, tough schedule beforehand, but then you have New Orleans at home. Good place for a new coach to start.
My thing is this, George, and here's why I am going to buy this. I think he's going to make it through the year and then he's going to be fired. Is because I just think it is rock bottom right now. They're 0-3. So, are they going to lose 3 consecutive games again this season? I don't think so. I think they're going to win 6 games or 7 games, which tells me it's win, loss, 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 win, loss, loss, So I just think they make the change at the end of the year. If they're not going to make it now and they're 0-3, the only thing that I would say to caveat would be is if they lose in their next game. If they lose that next game, then 0-4, yes, I think it happens. I don't think they will, though. So I am going to buy this.
Fantasy Sports Today, Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on SportsGrid.
We are back right here on Pro Football Today. NFL Week 4, Tom Vecchio alongside Joe Lisi. The Vikings were able to hit that field goal. It is 14-6. They are about to approach halftime right now. I believe Steelers will be looking to take a knee after the kickoff. There's only about 5-6 seconds left. 14-6 Nat. 5.5 spread for the Steelers. It is a 40.5 over-under. The live total with -136 to the under. Any quick thoughts on that as we approach halftime?
Right now, I mean, the game flow really slowed down. You have, red zone opportunities for both the Steelers and Vikings, and they come away with field goals. That's always a concern right now. I still believe the Vikings are in a pass-now type of mode. Their defense really hasn't shown any way of slowing down Aaron Rodgers. I would still lean to the over right now, but again, I just can't take Minnesota with the points because again, I've seen them move the football between the 30s. Wentz is struggling right now with a defense that isn't that great, I believe, in Pittsburgh.
So Wentz's number was 252, 253. He was sitting at 93 total yards. They pushed down the field. He's up to 154 yards at halftime. His live line is sitting at 282 passing yards. Rodgers, 165 in the first half, 244 his live line. DK's at 122 total receiving yards. Justin Jefferson's at 97 with that long reception. We should be seeing more of a running game from the Steelers moving forward. But let's get back to Sunday Night Football between the Packers and the Cowboys. A lot going on when it comes to this. Jordan Love will be the key to this Packers offense moving forward. There were some injury concerns with Josh Jacobs earlier in the week. He is set to play. The receiving room for the Packers, to me, is very confusing because there are a lot of options. And this was before Reed got injured earlier this season. But Tucker Kraft has stepped up. You still have Romeo Doubs. Dontavian Wicks is in the mix. And then the rookie, Matt Golden, sometimes we don't know where the ball is going to. And to your point, they can't solely rely on Josh Jacobs when it's all said and done. Is there any pass catcher from the Packers that stands out to you this week?
I would go with Golden, and I would go with Tucker Kraft at tight end, because you just look at the matchup and think about the performance for Caleb Williams last week, right? It wasn't DJ Moore so much the pure number one. Who's the number one on Green Bay right now? You can make the argument it's Wicks, it's Dobbs. It all depends. But Golden isn't a bad option. I mean, I think the Dallas took away DJ Moore for the most part in that matchup. It was all secondary wide receivers. We saw Aduze get some catches, right, and some of the others. But again, I still like Golden. I think Golden's an option here. You have to utilize him. You can't draft the kid and not utilize him in the offense. They did the same with Jaden Reed last year. I mean, he jumped out to a huge start, and in the middle of the regular season, he just became a non-factor. It's like, and I understand you want to decoy a guy, but you can't just completely have him out there running routes and not utilize any type of scheme to get him the football, and that's a concern. You have to get the football to Golden. Tight ends are always big for both Dallas and Green Bay. Tucker Kraft is a security blanket for Jordan Love. But again, if you think Jordan Love and this offense are going to throw over the top the way everybody has, you got to. I think everybody has to eat, but I can't buy into Wicks or Dobbs right now.
Yeah, that's one thing to note. Opposing offenses against this Dallas defense, which there's basically been none of Dallas defense, have been extremely successful. If Russell Wilson can go out there and throw for 400 yards, if you signed Jordan Love to all of this money 2 years ago, if you can't get him to excel in this type of matchup, if LaFleur can't cook up types of plays to get the ball deep, when can you exploit a defense like this? When can you trust Jordan Love? So when I'm looking at a Jordan Love prop, his longest pass over 39.5 seems a little tempting. If Wan'Dale Robinson is able to break free, you got to have some guys on the Green Bay side to do it. When it comes to Dallas defense, there's been none, as I've been alluding to. Points allowed per game, up to 30.7. It's only been through 3 weeks. Rushing total yards allowed per game, almost 400, sitting at 397. It's been a balance between rushing and passing allowed from the Dallas defense, and that's what we should be seeing tonight. I think they should pass early, get the ball with Love in his hands, get it to the receivers, and then a Josh Jacobs performance late because they won't have to pass the ball. They'll be able to control the clock with a 2-score lead at a certain point.
Yeah, and think about the game that they won a couple of years ago. Aaron Jones had a big performance when he was with the Green Bay Packers. They ran it effectively, and that opened up everything with the passing attack, but they abused the secondary over the top. Again, I think Dallas right now is going to take away Josh Jacobs in this matchup, play man-to-man coverage on the outside, because I don't think they're feared by the Green Bay wide receivers as much. I think Chicago maybe had a little bit more speed, younger wide receivers that could take the top off the secondary last week. And again, Neighbors is one of the best wide receivers potentially in the league in year number 2. So again, it's a good look. I mean, Jordan Love has to be the guy. You paid him the money. He's there. He's not a rookie in the sense or a second-year guy. He's a veteran now. He has to live up to expectations.
Wholeheartedly agree. The ball has to be in Love's hands early. You control the game, and then you go from there. Right? And if that's a balance between rush and pass, a balance between Josh Jacobs, there's a lot to discuss. Plenty more coming up right here on Sports Grid. Pro Football Today returns after this.